Welcome to Eventful Endeavors, secrets to crafting the perfect celebration. If you're planning an event and looking for useful tips from industry experts, you're in the right place. So get ready to take some notes and we'll dive right in. This is Eventful Endeavors.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Eventful Endeavors. We are here today and we have something new, which is exciting because we are here with Alyssa, who works with WOW Events. And, we've talked to a lot of wedding planners, we've talked to a lot of venues, but we've been having a lot of conversations about weddings. And this is going to be fun because you do a lot of other things other than weddings. So first of all, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Shawn. I'm really excited to talk to you more about WOW and what we do.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So the first thing I always like to ask everybody right off the rip is kind of, what's your story? How did you get into the events world? Where did you grow up in California? Were you always here? Just tell me your story. Tell me your history.
Yeah, so I was actually born and raised in more Northern California, outside of the Bay Area, in a small little town called Tracy. Not many people will know it, but those who do, shout out. And then
shout out to Tracy.
I went to college in Southern California at Cal State Fullerton. And wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do after college, but I majored in communications. One of my classes, it was really cool because he did kind of an intro to all different types of careers related to communications. One of those was event planning. And I was like, oh, event planning, I've done that. I was in like ASB growing up and stuff like that. I was like, oh yeah, that's totally something I can try out. And at the time, I was actually working in downtown Disney as a hostess at a restaurant. And with my communications degree, we were required to do an internship. So I got to intern for a nonprofit, which was really special. Got to help them plan their fundraising gala. So got my toes wet. And then when I graduated, it just happened to be good timing that a position opened at the restaurant for the events office. So then I got to get a little more exposure, got to help plan like luncheons and just some different things at the restaurant. And then from there, got to go to WOW Events. I was very fresh and young and started as an assistant. A couple years in, I got to move up to a producer. And then when the pandemic hit, I actually took a step away before the pandemic to get different experience with catering and weddings, actually. And then after the pandemic, I came back to WOW when they were kind of reopening their business. And then I've been here ever since. So it's been a really fun kind of journey and getting to learn a lot. And I didn't plan on doing event planning, but I love it. And I think it's really fun and different. So.
You said something, and I kind of want to touch on it. We haven't really talked about it on any of these episodes yet, which is very shocking to me. But you mentioned kind of the pivot during COVID. So tell me about what your experience was during all that, because I can't believe we haven't really talked about it too much with anybody. Like the events world essentially shut down and everybody pivoted. So what was that? What did that look like? How did you guys do? What did you do?
Yeah, so that was kind of a crazy time. I wasn't actually with WOW when the pandemic hit, but I was in communication with them because I've always kind of kept good relations with the owner, Tiffany, and the team.
Sure.
And what they did is, in the beginning, pretty much all the events had to be postponed. And to give you a little more insight for WOW, our biggest season is April and May. And obviously March was when the announcement was made. And so it truly was just like a panic. And so a big part of what WOW had to do was, really just be there to reassure everyone that, hey, we're going to go with the flow and, see what happens. A lot of events ended up having to be canceled or postponed. We definitely tried to postpone and save as much as we can. But basically during the worst of it, all of it was so unknown. It was like, oh, okay, a couple weeks, a couple more weeks and a couple more weeks. Yeah. Eventually the company did have to downsize. And part of that, we had to get rid of the office space. So we really just kind of came down to, I think at the smallest, it was only 2 people working for the company. And what we did, what the company did to stay afloat is we actually started doing luxury pop-up picnics. So these
Okay.
were like micro events, and we're in Orange County. So there's some really like beautiful parks, and a lot of people were holding like showers or birthday parties in their backyards. So we were able to continue doing small outdoor events via luxury pop-up picnics. So that was really cool. There again was like a lot of baby showers or proposals
Right.
or very small intimate gatherings. And so that just opened up a whole other small window to keep WOW as a company. And then slowly as, restrictions kind of loosened up and the world kind of let us have events again, we slowly started to grow again. And that at that point, I was able to come back to the company, which was really great. And now
Yeah.
it's fun to see how things have changed since the pandemic. So we do a lot of virtual meetings now instead of in person.
Hmm.
I now work fully from home, aside from when I'm like out at site and at meetings. So my dogs love it.
Yeah.
I'm here with them all the time.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, I'm currently working in like an office closet in
Yeah.
between moving, but it's been kind of a really interesting and fun adventure to adapt with now the post pandemic and kind of how it's affected events and stuff.
Did you feel, because this is how I felt, did you feel like when it came back bigger? Like, I feel like
Oh
it was like all of a
yeah.
sudden really, like everybody was like, I want to throw a party. I want to throw a party. I haven't thrown a party in 3 years. It's like,
Absolutely. When
like,
I first came back to WOW after the pandemic, it was like, and they told me this, they were like, you need to be ready to hit the ground running. And I was like, all right. And yeah, it was like at a point where, because you're dealing with multiple things, right? Those postponed events now need to happen. And then on top of that, more people got pregnant, engaged, like all these things happened. And so there was like a double up of like the postponed events, new events,
right.
so much was happening all at once. And we're lucky that we had such great like vendors and venues that were able to work with us on whether it was, I don't know, just little things, big things. We all just kind of try to help each other. Like everyone,
Right.
lost money, had emotional. I feel so bad. We work with a lot of high schools, and like a lot of the seniors had to miss out on like their proms or their
Yeah.
graduations. But in a way, it kind of brought us all closer together too, because we all just kind of had to go through it together.
Yeah, exactly. So before we get into kind of my favorite part, which is where we, share stories that we've seen at events and whatnot, I do want to know, because we haven't talked to too many like event coordinators that don't specialize in weddings. So what do you guys kind of do? Are you there usually from the very beginning? Do people hire you at the start of this, and then you plan the whole thing, or how does that kind of work with your guys' company?
Yeah, so it's funny. I was chatting with Tiffany, the owner, a little bit ago, and she's like,
Yep.
"Yeah, it's almost like we do everything except weddings." And, we do. It kind of just depends on the event itself because we do so many different types of events. It really depends on what the scope of the event is and how much we need to be involved. But for the most part, yes, we are there from the very beginning. We do full A to Z planning and coordinating. So typically someone will call us, say, hey, I want to do this event. This is the budget and this is the vision. Our biggest thing is like, we are here to consult you and also help you relieve the stress and guide you as well if you don't have the experience of planning an
Right.
event. Sometimes people are event planners and they also still call us because they just can't, they have such an influx of events that they don't have the capacity to do it all. So it's kind of cool that we just work with all these different types of people. But yes, so typically we're there A to Z from the beginning, helping. We'll even help them with their budget if they need to. And then pretty much like my job is to bring the vision to life and execute. So we're even there on the day of usually. We want to make sure that, load in is smooth, execution is smooth. And even after the event, everyone gets off the property safely. Vendors, need to pick up at a certain time. So we're pretty much there for the whole thing.
Okay. Is it, because you guys don't do any weddings, is that by choice, or just has it just fallen off, or You've just said, you know what,
You
this
know,
is more, our bread and butter is more this kind of thing. We
yeah.
like
I
doing it.
don't think
It's
that
okay.
was ever like intentional. It just kind of
Yeah,
happened. We actually have done a couple of like small backyard weddings. Or like I said, we
sure.
kind of do more of like the proposals, anniversary parties.
Yeah.
That's more exactly, that's more our bread and butter. And yeah, I think Tiffany's been in the industry for, 20 plus years. And I think it just kind of falls down a line of like who you've been working with and your clientele. And yeah, we have a lot of nonprofits and high schools and corporates, and we just didn't really go down the wedding route.
Right. Well, and I guess with a lot of that stuff too, you probably have a lot of people that you like, you're going to do this event annually, right? Like you're like, you have a lot of those where it's like, I know I do this event every year. So it's almost like we've got a few things that are just set in stone. Like I know my calendar is going to have that event at some point next year, right?
Yeah, definitely. We
Yeah.
have a few of those. And exactly, I always look forward to like working with my people every year and getting to put
Yeah.
on this like annual event.
That's awesome. Do you guys do a lot of the, because I really don't know how a lot of corporate stuff gets planned. Like I show up and play the event and I have a blast, but a lot of times I don't know, like, do you guys do a lot of the like creative stuff about that? Do you present them a lot of ideas, like, because you've seen a lot of fun stuff, or do they usually have, because brides and grooms have a vision. They know what they want for the
Mhm.
most part. And then they just kind of like are like, make it happen. But I don't know if corporate things do. So do you guys usually have a lot of creative control there?
It's a mix. So we do get the occasional client that like has a very clear vision. This is exactly what we want. But it does, I feel like with the corporate, there is a lot more creative freedom with, they kind of just have a general idea of what they want, and they will get them to like pick a theme. And then with that, they'll let us kind of roll with creativity. And that's what's really fun for me, because then I get to, throw in super fun things. I think that's how you and
Right.
I actually met. Is
Yeah.
I was, looking for something fun and creative for a nonprofit gala. And I was like, oh, yes, pianos, dueling pianos, totally. So it's
Yeah.
great because I get to meet new people too along the way, of getting to be creative and thinking outside the box, staying current with like the trends, and just making sure that, we're delivering what the client wants, but also showing them things that maybe they haven't seen before.
So let's talk about the trends. What because I think this is always something interesting. When you've done events for a while, things are different over time, right? So what do you notice is happening a lot now at a lot of these events that maybe never used to happen in the past, or things that used to happen a lot that now nobody's doing anymore? Like what have you noticed?
Yeah. So what we've been seeing a lot over the years, is an increase in like interactive guest experiences. So from the catering to the photography, we've seen a lot of people kind of steer away from a more formal, traditional, whether that's a formal sit down served seated dinner or a formal photographer taking people's pictures as they come in. A lot more common now, we're seeing like interactive fun food stations or food trucks. One of my favorites is like the donuts. There was a time where like the donut wall was really trendy, and
Right.
now they've kind of taken that a step farther. And now we're seeing a lot of like, you have a donut, like a build your own donut station. So you get the mini
Mm.
plain donuts, but then it's set up like an ice cream sundae bar where you get to put whatever toppings you want. So it takes it to the next level of like, not only is this a fun food for you, but now you get to customize it and play with the
Right.
station. So we're seeing a lot more of that. And then with like the photography side, you used to see a lot of like when you arrive to an event, maybe a step and repeat or formal photographer making you do like an awkward pose. And nowadays we're
Sure.
definitely seeing an increase in like interactive photo booths, or even like photo opportunities. So building themed photo ops for people to then like make an Instagram moment or a TikTok. And even with the photo booths, they keep getting more and more like technologically
Insane.
advanced. Yeah, and they're so fun. So like right now, I'm sure you've seen them, but they have like the 360 slow motion
I had
video.
one.
Those are
I did it at
awesome.
my wedding.
I
It was
love it.
awesome.
Those are just so fun. You get
Yeah.
so unique with it, right? And then I
Yeah.
don't know if you've seen also like the mirror booths. It's like a huge
I don't think
full
so.
body like vintage mirror, but then it's a screen and it's all programmed with like you can
Wow.
play with it. You could do black and white, you could do color, you can do printout strips so you still get the physical. But those are really fun. I think I'm going to do that one at my wedding.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I haven't even seen that. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, so they just have all these different like, and again, kind of building on that experience for the guest and making it more interactive and more unique and special.
Yeah, I did a corporate event, I want to say, last month, and they had brought like mini golf, like little mini golf stations to like the
Yep,
event, like just out front in the cocktail hour so people could just, shoot. And I was like, this is amazing. Like this is so cool, you
that's
know.
so funny you
And nobody
mentioned.
played. Nobody
I
played.
actually, I have a prom that's looking at doing that actually, because
Yeah.
they're at a country club and they're like, oh, that'd be so cool to play golf. And the country club's like, you guys aren't playing golf on the field. And I was like, oh, let's bring in some mini putt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Country
it's so
club's like,
fun.
no, these kids are not getting on the
They're like,
greens.
no.
That's funny. What's the you know, what's the most unique thing you've seen at a wedding? Like something really, or not at a wedding, at an event, like something kind of like, oh, that was really cool that they did that. Whether it was something you brought in or something that they had this idea for and then you made happen, that was just awesome.
We had a recent one just this past fall. It was actually for Del Taco, which was really fun.
Yeah.
They had a conference and we got to do their party at the end of the conference. And so they wanted to do the theme was like kind of a futuristic theme, but it was kind of a blend of like the past and the future. So we had a DeLorean, we had these like giant LED
Nice.
games, and then we had to top the DeLorean because they wanted this like grand finale send off. And so we did a drone show. And the drone
Wow.
shows are really interesting. So it's kind of, and then kind of going back to the trends. So drone shows are almost like the future of fireworks, I want to say. You
I've
can
never
think of
seen
it,
one. I don't know what it is.
yeah, you can think of it as like an air show, like
Sure.
fireworks. But
Right.
they're drones. So you get at least 100. 100 is like the minimum amount of drones that you want to use for a drone show.
100 drones?
100
That's a
drones.
lot of drones.
And
Wow.
200 is even better. But yeah,
That's wild.
so we are not us, but the provider, he'll pre-program the drone. So each drone has like a designated spot that it goes to, color that it lights up to, and then they fly through the air and make formations. So for Del Taco specifically, because we were doing a blend of the past and the future, we did the different
Yep.
logos of Del Taco over the years. So they did the very original Del
Wow.
Taco logo, followed by the next one, followed by the next decade. I think there's been like 8 different logos or something like that. And then it had a cute send off message for them as well. And we paired it with some music from the DJ that went along with all the decades. And it was really cool.
Wow.
That was definitely like a standout, wow, unique moment for us as well as the guests.
I can't even imagine what that would look like. Del Taco sounds like they know how to throw a party. I
Yeah,
would never have
definitely.
guessed.
It was a good
So,
one.
so do you like this is interesting to me because with weddings and whatnot, when I talk to wedding planners, I feel like, people come to them and they need vendors. It's like, okay, I got your photography, I got your, your DJ, your catering, like kind of the essentials with that. But I feel like in the corporate world, like this world, it's like you need to have drone shows and you want an aerial balletist and you need, somebody to get shot out of a cannon, like whatever it might be.
Totally.
Like, do you just have like this like roster of like, circus show extravagant stuff that you can just pull from?
I mean, yes, kind
Yeah.
of. We do. So we work with over 100 venues in Southern California, and I would say
Wow.
at least twice that amount of vendors. Consistently, it's nice because we have like our core team of
Sure.
exactly like our caterers, our DJs, the ones that we use all the time. And then we
Right.
have those special niche
Yeah.
one-off vendors that really bring something unique and special that only they do. So usually it's a mix of, depending on
Okay.
if it's something we've done before or not. We'll research or ask people that we work with, like, oh, have you used these people, or have you done this before? So we have a lot of like word of mouth connections as well, if it is something that we haven't done before.
Right.
So that's always helpful as well.
So this seems like there's a lot going on at some of these events. Like, how many, with WOW, how many do you guys do in a year? Like, how many events can you do? I mean, you have a team, right? So you have
Yeah.
multiple people, so you can probably do even a couple things on a given night, right? So how many,
Yes.
like, per year, like, how many events you guys putting together?
We do over 100 a year.
Wow.
We're a small women-owned business, so currently
Yep.
I think there's only about I think there's 4 full-time employees. We have a
Wow.
couple of part-time employees, and then we do have like seasonal as needed event managers who will actually be on
Sure.
site for the entire event. But it's funny. So I mentioned like April, May is our crazy busy season. So we will have, I think on our busiest night, we might have like 12 events on one night. And like each of us, so each producer might have
12 on a night?
for the whole company. I would say the
Sure, but
most
that's a
that,
lot. Yeah.
the most that like one producer, so the most that I have in a night is like 4 events, and that would be like my busiest night.
Right.
On average during our busy season, I'd say like I have at least 2 events each Saturday, 2 or 3. And then during the less like not peak season, then it gets a little more scattered and manageable.
Sure.
But definitely it's like that's our peak season is April, May. And yeah, we can have up to like 12 plus in a night. Which is why we have that extra help as well that comes on
To bring,
yeah.
bring people in to kind of manage the day of,
Exactly, because we can't
12
be everywhere at
Yeah.
once. So usually on a
Sure.
night when I have multiple events, I will like prioritize based on setup, based on the clients, and then I'll kind of map myself out to try to be at each event at least to, say hello and make sure things are good. And if I can't be there, I always have like my phone, and we're in constant communication with the on-site teams. We do a lot of prep work and a lot of communication to be able to make sure that execution is seamless.
So you mentioned kind of going event to event. Like, do you do most of these events local to OC? Do you guys branch out, do any destination stuff, or is it mostly just local?
For the most part, we are pretty local to Southern California. So we have a lot of events in Los Angeles, Orange County, some even out in like Palm Desert area or like
Yeah.
Simi Valley area. So we'll travel within a radius. We'll go. We love to, travel and do farther events. There would probably be a travel fee involved.
Sure.
But currently we pretty much stay local to Southern California.
But if somebody was like, "Hey, we got a budget, we want to come to Maui,"
Yeah,
you're like, "Oh, sure,
absolutely.
I guess
I would
I'll
love
go to
to do a
Maui."
further event and get to do that. That'd be
Sure.
super fun. I always
Yeah, you're like,
tell Tiffany, like, oh, we want to do something in the Bay Area, where my family is and stuff.
Sure.
I'm all about it.
yeah, turn it into a little vacation as well. I love when I get those calls and somebody's like, "Hey, we want to do this show," and we're doing a show on Maui, and I'm like, "Oh, let's go,"
Fun.
So
Yeah, exactly.
a lot of fun. So let me ask you this, because this is kind of my favorite question to ask, because I've heard a lot of crazy things. But what is what's the craziest thing you've ever seen at an event? Like something either going wrong or something, a guest did something insane, like a speech went off the rails. I don't know, like like off the top of your head, like, is there something you can think of that was just like, this was unreal?
There have been a couple of just exactly like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. And it's usually unrelated to like the event itself, but is in proximity to, and usually involving like downtown LA or something, right? We had an event, we've had a couple events where just like something crazy happens. At one event, it was the venue doesn't exist anymore, but it was at the Hollywood and Highland Mall. So it's like an outdoor mall, public
Okay.
space, but the venue itself was secured. And somehow these like two just regular people, they had climbed up the like fire escape ladder on the back end of the venue, and they were on the roof. And I think they were probably, I don't know what they were doing up there, drinking or just being silly and like, talking to people. But I get the phone call from my event manager and he's like, hey, there's people on the roof. And I'm like, what do you mean? Are they guests from the event? He's like, no, they're not. Like, what do I do? And I'm like, we got to get them out. Like, but yeah, that was one that I'm always like, oh yeah, there were people on the roof at that one event. I'm just glad they weren't people,
Yeah, we don't want that liability and whatnot. I always say it's kind of nice because when you have like event planners and like this kind of stuff, everybody I talk to is like something goes wrong, but the clients just never know. It's like they just don't know.
Yeah, that is the goal. As long as the client doesn't know.
Yeah, we know, but like nobody needs to know that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah. So that was a crazy.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is, especially downtown LA. I've had some crazy stuff down there too. So, people sneaking into events. Have you had any other, like, I've never talked about it with anybody. Have you ever had any other events where people have crashed it that weren't supposed to be there?
I don't think so. We do most of our events. We provide security, especially like the high school events. We always have a security team. Even our other events, we usually advise having security. We don't always have it, but we try to bring security to our events because we just don't want to risk things happening.
Well, especially when you have a group of people and, there's alcohol involved, not the high school events, obviously, but like, with like some of the things, you have a company party and, Joe from HR had a lot of cocktails. Who knows what's going to happen? It's
Absolutely.
Like, it's just better to be safe than be sorry so things don't go off the rails. But
totally.
Well, listen, that's pretty much all I have. Is there anything else you want to mention? I mean, is there something you want to mention about your company and just kind of how you guys operate? Anything that you're like, hey, this is what makes us unique, makes us stand out, anything that you can think of?
I mean, we just celebrated our 20-year anniversary. I don't know if I mentioned that, but we just celebrated. Nope. Yeah, so that's been really exciting. Awesome. I mentioned, we're just a small company, just a couple of us planners. We do a lot of events. It's a really fun team to be a part of. And, our goal is to always kind of build our Sorry, that was my dog. We really pride ourselves on, our relationships with our clients, as well as our vendors and venues. And one thing that, sets us apart is we always try to kind of live by our 3 C's, which is to be creative, collaborative, and consultative. So as I kind of mentioned earlier too, is we love to kind of use our creative, freedom, and not just when it comes to planning the events, but also with problem solving. We sometimes joke that we are professional problem solvers. And so sometimes our creative thinking has to apply in those ways as well. And then again, just kind of being a consultant and a guide for our clients. And making sure that we're collaborating and bringing their vision to life and making sure that, the client's happy at the end of the day and the guests. We really love to make sure that the guests have a really great experience. So.
And then last thing, we'll send it home with this. What's your number one piece of advice to anybody planning a wedding or on any event? Sorry, not just a wedding, a corporate event, a birthday party, an anniversary party, whatever it might be. What's your number one kind of piece of advice? Like, do this. Or don't do this. One or two.
There's a lot. And it's kind of funny because you mentioned wedding. I'm actually planning my wedding right now. So in the middle of planning all these events, thank you. I'm also planning my wedding. So it's really hard to like balance trying to find that time. So I would say number one thing would probably be like so two things. So time management, but with that, like making lists of what you need to get done and what you need to get done now and what can kind of wait, and kind of organizing the whole project. So we kind of take an event and treat it like a project and then break it down. So that would be my advice, so that people don't get overwhelmed, but also you don't want important things to fall through the cracks or like wait till the last minute to do something that you should have done in the beginning. So kind of taking the event, looking at it as a whole project, and then breaking down into pieces. And to have fun, because it's fun. Try not to.
It can be overwhelming. I planned a lot of my own wedding. I did that before I got into the industry, so I didn't really know any better, and I planned a lot of it myself. And it went great, but it was not always. I was stressful at times. So
it's a lot.
It's good to talk to somebody who knows what they're doing, right?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it at least takes a load off and makes it, hopefully less stressful. That's always our goal when we're working with clients on their events, is alleviate the stress, take a little bit of pressure off, and kind of hold your hands in the process.
And you'll never know if there's people on the roof. You'll never know.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, well, Alyssa, thank you so much for doing this. Well, obviously, we'll link to all your guys' stuff, socials, and all that in the notes and everything, and so people know where to find you. Should they ever be booking pretty much any type of event in the world? It seems like you guys do anything, really. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. All right?
Thanks so much, Shawn. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
You got it. Bye, Alyssa.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Eventful Endeavors, Secrets to Crafting the Perfect Celebration. We hope to have left you with some actionable ideas for your own event. If you like the show, please subscribe and definitely leave us a review. We read every comment. So until next time, happy planning and see you soon on Eventful Endeavors.